Chugga 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 choo choo. Super Trains is a new family weight pickup and deliver type of game where you're delivering stuff and you're delivering passengers, but you're really just not picking them up per se. You're getting cards. Whatever. I digress. I've covered it a lot. There'll be links down below. I'm going to link them at the relevant sections as I tell you how I think it fits. All right, so let's get into the feeling of Super Trains. So Super Trains is putting you in the role of a superhero train that's going to be traveling around, generating gears, delivering them to different locations, grabbing passengers, delivering them to locations as well, and fighting off emergencies based on the roll or die. The way that the movement is implemented in this game, where you're only able to, when you start your turn going on track and you can only go one way, it's a good way of implementing that to where you do feel like you are that train, because trains can't just keep going back and forth and all that. It's going to go one way and then it can eventually turn around, come the other way, and loop around. Also, one of the main ways of getting points, or the easiest way of getting points, is to fight off those emergencies that keeps coming out because of Rolar. So that kind of helps institute that superhero feel and just reinforce that ability of, helping out is a great thing to do. Helping out makes you super. Let's knock out that emergency. Let's put out that fire. Let's get rid of those bad things that are happening in our city to make it where we can, live in peace and all of that. So it really does instill that feeling based on, you having to do these things. Otherwise, you can't get to that area. So it is an emergency. So it does a really good job of instilling that feeling into the game. And especially with this being for younger kids to play with their parents, it does kind of give that really good learning area there where parents are able to show their kids, C being super means knocking out these emergencies, fighting off this, fighting off of that. So it instills that feeling in there. And it does that by using stuff inside the box. So as I said, I've covered this a lot. One of them was an unboxing. I'll put that link right up above. And I will say this is a really well-produced game. The miniatures for the trains are nice, big, chunky. Rolar's one is this huge, imposing figure. It looks awesome. The gear pieces themselves are really thick, chunky wood pieces that are easy to put down and get up. The gear tokens are a nice thickness of cardboard to go on the board and aren't too awkward to where they are able to sit on the board nice, and you can put the gears on them because that's where they go. So it all just flows together nice. The player boards themselves also have really good information everywhere, laid out well, designed nice, bright, colorful, all that fun stuff. The cargo and the passengers, they're color coded and have the name of where they gotta go. So you can easily match the color or you can easily match the name. It also is very clear to what it's going to give you, where it wants to go, all of that fun stuff. The containers that hold the gears and the gear tokens, in the rule book, it shows that they're supposed to have a divider so you can put the gears on one side, tokens on the other. Ours is all just one single well. That can make it a little fiddly. We've been pretty good about being able to line up the cardboard pieces on one and then kind of putting the wood tokens, but it could get mixed up depending especially how much you're digging in and throwing them in. So that part can feel fiddly, especially if you are dealing with smaller fingers who might have an issue grabbing them, in which case you may want to just put them out on the board or even use the lids to separate them out. The rulebook itself also seemed fine. Sometimes it might have seemed a little convoluted. I mean, it is a larger rulebook for a family weight game and one whose rules are fairly straightforward. So it can seem a little intimidating, can seem convoluted, and then they forgot a couple small rules here and there. If you go to Board Game Geek and search it, a lot of those rules are answered, but one of the main ones is building the roller deck, and then where does roller start? Well, he starts on the deck. It seems intuitive, but especially if you're not used to playing games, you may think, well, he just doesn't start on the map. Maybe he comes in from the edge. You don't quite know. So there were just a few little misprints in there. Again, though, if you watch my how to play, which I will link here in a little bit, all that's covered, as well as if you go to Board Game Geek, all those answers are covered there as well. So getting into two-player changes, there are no two-player changes. This plays the same at 2 players as it does in more players. The only really kind of downside per se with 2 players is that when you flip over emergency, you can get help from other players. So with less players, that's less players who have that ability to help you. And then when you're getting the help, only one person's able to help, and they're getting all of those helping cards, the kind cards. But with that, let's go ahead and get into my thoughts on gameplay. So as I said, I did do a how to play to this. I will link that right up here above so you can see how to play the game. So even though I said, this is a pretty simple, straightforward rule set, that doesn't mean it's not without its strategic depth and elements. One of the things is at the beginning or at the beginning of everyone's turn, they roll the dice and there's gear generation. And if you're the active player, if you have multiple gears in a row of the same color, you can generate a bunch of gears. And gears is what makes this game go round. Like, that's what you're delivering. You need gears to upgrade your train, all of that, etc. So this is one where you do have to try and, have that um, spatial awareness and kind of plan it out, because if you're getting multiple train upgrades as well, those are also going to have to go on your board, which is going to limit where you can put your gears and how those gears get manipulated on your board. And then one of the rules that the wording is a little weird in the rule book, and it's like you can move once on your turn, you can move up to 5 spaces, but you can do things during your move. So most times you think once you move and do something, you're done. But because you can do it, you can actually like move 2, do something, then move your remaining 3. A lot of the people in their head are going to think, well, that's 2 moves. I moved 2 and then I moved 3. But it's basically you have a move allotment of 5 that you can do and use that 5. So you just can't move more than 5 unless you spend a green gear. But whatever, I digress. But that's the thing is, so that rule, the way it's worded, sounds a little counterintuitive to when you explain it, that you can, move and stop and move and stop. So that's just one thing to kind of think in mind or keep in mind with that. The randomness of where the emergencies land also can sometimes seem punishing to one player, especially if the same location keeps getting rolled and that's what they need to do for one of their goal cards, is like, say, deliver to the police station. All right, well, an emergency showed up. Well, I went and fought that emergency. Well, now another emergency, another emergency. There was one game we played where I think the police station got hit with almost every emergency. It had like 3 on it at one time. And yeah, I can keep fighting them, or my opponent can fight them, but if they don't need to go there, then they're kind of like, well, then I don't care if there's an emergency there. But if I'm going there, I still have to generate the gears. I'm going to need those to fight that emergency, and I'm going to need them to fulfill my goals, etc. So it can feel a little punishing there. And then the other thing is, for a game that's played with younger children, we did feel like it went a little long. There is involvement on every turn. Like when you roll those dice, everyone does produce the gears. So that is there to kind of help keep them engaged throughout the gameplay. But based on like how big the emergency deck is and that's the end game trigger, you kind of, it's a variable game length, because if you're not rolling those emergencies much, then the game is going to go longer and longer. And with it being, basically just delivering this or delivering that, it can start feeling a little samey with the length. So that is just the one concern that I personally do have. Outside of that, though, like I said, really enjoyed the strategic one. I know it's sounding like I'm being very negative on the game. We really did enjoy it. These are just kind of some of the issues I saw crop up, but there is still that strategic depth there. There still is that, trying to see if you can get a passenger and cargo to go to the same location to maximize all of that. So it's a good learning step to show younger kids, or maybe people who aren't used to board games, the forward thinking, the forward planning, optimizing these movements. Where are you going to place this stuff in your little grid down there? So it is a good learning basis for that to be able to then step up to other games. One last thing to cover, and that is the solo mode. There is no solo mode. You can play this 2 to 5 players, I think it is. So again, no solo mode. All right, but what kind of fit do I think it is? Like I said, I know a lot of that sounded negative, but I'm going to still say this is a good fit. I am going to give this a 7 out of 10. I am usually willing to play it. It is fun. The rolling, the game presence, all of that really lends itself to a fun gaming experience. Moving around the trains, make the little sounds like and looping around, optimizing things. All the trains feel different because they all have different abilities and their superpowers are all different. So figuring out which one do you enjoy the play style of. So like I said, even though the playtime for this can feel a little long for the type of game it is, there is still a good depth of strategy and choices to make to where parents will enjoy playing this with their children, because they aren't going to feel like it is so basic. You are going to have to forward think and plan and see, Where am I in relation to this? How can I get there? Using the gears for movement. So there are a lot of smaller decisions in there to where it is going to keep you engaged, and where you can start trying to instill these more gamery elements and the more game thinking elements of it with those younger children or people who aren't used to playing games. All right, but if I could get you to please head down below and hit like, subscribe, comment, share, ring the bell. What's your favorite train game? In addition to that, if you are looking to purchase games, possibly some train games or other games, you can visit Miniature Market using our link down below. If you use that link, we get credit for the sale, and that helps fund all the videos we are doing here. If you're looking for another way to fund us and you need a little pep in your step, maybe to keep up with all those running kids around the house, then go ahead and check out Dubby. We have partnered with them. You can use the code MEEPLES at dubby.gg to get a discount and to give us credit for the sale. Or we have a link down below. Alrighty, so get on the train, ride it, get up on the train, let's ride it.